Do you ever feel like your female ancestors are playing hide and seek in historical records? Well, I know I do. And so in this video, I'm sharing with you how to use ancestors' death records to find more information on those female ancestors. Hey there, if we haven't met before, I'm Lisa with Are You My Cousin? And this YouTube channel is designed to help you find your ancestors, grow your family tree, but not be overwhelmed in the process. So if that sounds like your cup of tea, you're in the right place. Now today's video is sponsored by archives.com. Whether you are a beginner or a seasoned researcher, archives.com offers everything that you need to embark on your journey of discoveries. They focus on providing a wide range of records such as census, vital, immigration, and military records, serving as more than just a partner in finding your ancestors, but a partner in your discoveries. Users can seamlessly attach records to the Family Tree Builder and unearth new details about your ancestors with the Discovery Engine. With users of all skill levels in mind, archives.com assures affordability for everyone. While part of the Ancestry.com family, archives.com operates completely independently, assuring more focused collections at a lower price point, with many users discovering unique records not found anywhere else online. And if you're ready to dig a little deeper and find more genealogy search tips, be sure to visit their help pages and their blog for helpful articles. So start your journey with archives.com today to uncover stories that connect you to your past. I'll have the link in the description below. As genealogy researchers, seeking out those women in the family tree does feel like that game of hide and seek. But here's a strategy that you might not have thought about before, and that is to really focus on records created at the time of her death or the death of family members. I know it sounds a bit morbid, but records created when an individual or their family passed away can contain a lot of helpful family information. And not just for your female ancestor, but for other ancestors as well. So I want to walk you through some examples to give you an idea of what I'm talking about. Okay, so let's take a look at this family, the women in our family tree, because I know it feels like they're playing hide and seek. Sometimes I feel like they're just peeking at me from behind the leaves. And as soon as I started to get a clue and start to find them, they kind of duck back in there. All right, I know they're kind of playing with me sometimes, but here we go. Let's talk about the women and let's focus on those records that were created around either their death or the death of a family member. Now, the first thing that I think that we would think about would be to look at that death certificate, right? And I mean, it's probably one of the first things that we can go to and look at. And so here we have one. This is actually for my ancestor and Maddie Maddox. And so we have her name up here, but look at this information down here. So this one tells us who her father was, that he was James Maddox, and that her mother was Martha Jane Lett. So this is a very specific, it gives us exactly who her parents were, and it puts us in that next generation back. So certainly you want to make sure, if you're pulling that death certificate for an ancestor, particularly a female ancestor, you want to make sure that you are looking at who the parents are. Now, one of the things, perhaps my focus of research was actually the mother, Martha Jane. This is a really good example to say that she would appear on the death records or death certificates of her children. So if I were struggling, I might actually then take that female ancestor and research all the children and pull their records to see if she would be perhaps named in their record, in their death certificate. So this is a good way to, when you've stuck on a female ancestor, and again, if my focus is Martha Lett, then perhaps that's who I'm looking for, and her record, I can connect her to her children, and that would give me that next generation back. It would connect those two generations and give me the spouse as well. And of course, it tells me where she was born. So that's always a very helpful hint. I realize sometimes this could be a little, maybe not always completely accurate, but it can at least get you in the right ballpark, hopefully. So definitely want to make sure that when you are looking at death certificates, make sure you're looking at every bit of information that is there. Check all of the fields and definitely make sure you're looking for anybody who is listed in that particular document. Now, obituaries will be another one, because in obituaries, you get the names, they'll give you birth dates. So oftentimes they'll give you a birthday. Now, what I will tell you is when you're pulling some of these birth dates is sometimes they will be very exact and sometimes they will just be more approximate. That's okay. Sometimes they just give you an age. That's okay, because if they give you how old somebody is, you can get an approximate birth date. You just have to do a little math. So do the math and you can infer a birth year with that as well. So that is an excellent way to come up with that birth year, and then you can start your search for that particular birth record back in that particular time period. Now, wills and estates, these are really fantastic places sometimes that we might overlook when it comes to a female ancestor. Now, for the will, it's possible that the ancestor, that she may have had her own will. So it is very possible that women had their own wills. They absolutely did. And we might be fortunate enough as researchers to find that one for our ancestor. But more likely than not, what we're going to find is a female might be mentioned in the will of a husband, in the will of a father, in the will of a grandfather. And if that's the case, sometimes if she's in her husband's will, we'll probably might just get that first name. We might get lucky and it tells us what her maiden name is. So that would be one place to look for her, for the evidence of the woman, to at least find a first name. Fingers crossed you're going to find a maiden name. I have seen that. It's not as often, but hopefully you will. But she may also have had her own will. And while she may not have had, it may be under a married name if she was a widow. Well, then what happens is you need to do a little more digging into that will and find out who's in it and who else. Perhaps she had some of her family members who were helping her in the will, who were neighbors, who were witnesses, and you can explore them out just as you would evaluate any other will or estate record for an ancestor, regardless of whether they were male or female. Now, here's an interesting thing. So when I talk about the wills, now women, could be named in their husband's wills and or their estate records. So this is just an example. This is one I actually pulled. I have the original. I took a photograph of the original record when I was at the archives. And this is part of the estate sale for a gentleman named Calvin Maddox. He was my ancestor and he died in 1848. Now, fortunately for me as a researcher, he did not have a will. Unfortunately for his wife, he did not have a will. But for me, because he died young, he had no will, it generated a lot of records for me to peruse and to understand who was in that particular community. And so one of the things, this is just one of the pieces, this was part of the estate sale that was happening. They would have property that was being sold on one side. They had the purchasers on the other side. Now I've got some boxes here. Here's a close-up of it right here. This is what I wanted you to look at here. So this little spot is right here. Okay, so when we look at the close-up, we have, the items being sold at the estate sale, and then we notice that we have a woman named Samantha Maddox. Here she is right here, Samantha Maddox. And she is actually the widow of Calvin. So we see her all through the records. So if we had not known what her name was, who she was, we would have seen that, similar name. I would have done due diligence research into that and discovered she was the wife. And then I would have to then pursue for a marriage record for this group. So this is a really another place that we're going to start to see evidence of the female. I never said it would be easy. You might find, as I said, but when you don't have anything and you can at least find a first name, well, at least it gives you some building blocks to go for. Now, tombstones are another fantastic place to actually find a little bit more about that on your ancestor, a little bit, some birth dates, some death dates here. And this is actually Samantha Maddox's tombstone. And I got really lucky, right? Because guess what? They put her maiden name on that tombstone. Her name was Samantha Buchanan Maddox. Perfect. So this was a really helpful tool for me to be able to use. And again, it gave me her birth years. So I have that to go on as well, her birth and her death year. So tombstones, don't overlook them. Yes, you might find mistakes on tombstones. I've absolutely seen that, and I think most of us probably have at some point or another, but they're usually pretty darn close. And so if I can corroborate this information with other information that is out there that I have found on an ancestor, then I can feel a little more confident in who she is. But knowing her maiden name, that gave me another step up when it came to researching her out. Now, another tool that many researchers do miss, and that is the mortality schedules. Now, the mortality schedules were taken along with the population schedules for the U.S. Census from 1850 to 1880. So it's not a lot of years, but we do have those for that time period, those time periods. Now, what they were is they documented the individuals who passed away, who had died within the previous 12 months from the census date. Okay, not the previous year, but the previous 12 months based on the census date. So if the census date, in this case, the year ending June 1st, 1870, this was the previous 12 months. So the first 6 months basically, or first 5 months of 1870 all the way back to the next, to round out to 12 months back through 1869. So it's just the 12 months. It's not the actual year itself. All right. But again, here we have, so you find this is men, women, children. So this is everybody. And so we have Mary Ragland here. So this is a female. It gives us her birth year. So that's a good thing for us. We can infer a birth date or birth year from that age. And it tells us just a little bit more about her. It tells us her race, her gender. It tells us where she was born. That's always a really nice piece of information. Sometimes they'll be specific, more, sometimes not. And it gives us the month of her death. So we actually know that she passed away in August of 1869 and what she died from. So this is really an important piece of information, because when we have this information, then we know we can start to go back and look for other records that corroborate with this. We could look for other death records. We know we can look for marriage records. We can look for birth records based on this and other Ragland family members in the area. So this would be, again, another place to find and document another piece of information and data on your female ancestor. Now, I hope you found that helpful, and I'm going to encourage you to dig into those records a little bit more today and see what interesting tidbits that you might find and pick up clues for your female ancestors as you go forward in your research today. Now, watch the video on your screen now for more tips about tracing your female ancestors.